of Arcadia, which is a play by Tom Stoppard. The show you're about to see tonight is, well, I think it's fabulous, but a couple of things I wanted you to know. So just so you're not trying to figure out what's going on here, yes, this show does switch between two entirely different time periods. So we'll have scenes from the 1700s, and then we'll have scenes in the 1980s. So it's part of the mystery of the play. We'll have an intermission. At that time, I'll turn the lights on. It'll be about 10 minutes long, and then we'll come back. The show should run about 2 hours, so including intermission. So we should be able to stretch your legs in about an hour. I hope you enjoy the show. Do take a moment to turn off your cell phones. We're in a very small space, and so, or put them on silent, and so anything can be a little distracting. And without, lastly, I did want to mention this. So we had a bit of a snafu with our butler, but as fortune would have it, and as the Seacrest family clearly extends now to alums, Miss Paxton walked in and said, "Hey, look who I found." And then Rhodes Conover walked in and said, "I heard you needed a butler." So I had to mention that that I really think captures the heart of what we try to do here at Seacrest and with Seacrest Theater. So enjoy the show.
Septimus, what is carnal embrace?
Carnal embrace is the practice of throwing one's arms around a side of beef.
Is that all?
No. A shoulder of mutton, a haunch of venison, an embrace of grouse, well hugged, carnis, feminine, flesh.
Is it a sin?
Not necessarily, my lady. I thought you were finding a proof of Fermat's last theorem.
It's very difficult, Septimus. You'll have to show me how.
If I knew how, there would be no need to ask you. Fermat's theory has kept people busy for hundreds of years, and I had hoped that it would keep you busy long enough for me to read Mr. Chater's poem, In Praise of Love, with only the distractions of its own absurdities.
Our Mr. Chater has written a poem.
Yes, he believes he has written a poem. I think there might be more carnality in your algebra than there is in Mr. Chater's The Couch of Eros.
It was not in my algebra. I heard Jellyby telling Cook that Mrs. Chater was discovered in carnal embrace in the gazebo.
Really? With whom did Jellyby happen to say?
What do you mean, with whom?
With what? Exactly so, the idea is absurd. Where did this story come from?
Mr. Noakes.
Mr. Noakes?
Papa's landscape gardener. He was taking bearings in the garden when he saw, through his spyglass, Mrs. Chater in the gazebo in carnal embrace.
And do you mean to tell me that Mr. Noakes told the butler?
No, Mr. Noakes told Mr. Chater. Jellyby was told by the groom who overheard Mr. Noakes telling Mr. Chater in the stable yard.
Mr. Chater being engaged in closing the stable doors.
What do you mean, Septimus?
So at this moment, the only people who know are Mr. Noakes, the landscape architect, the butler, the cook, And of course, Mrs. Chater's husband, the poet.
And Arthur, who was cleaning the silver. And the boot boy. And now you.
Of course. What else did he say?
Mr. Noakes?
No, Jellyby. You heard Jellyby telling the cook.
The cook hushed him almost as soon as he started. Jellyby did not see that I was being allowed to finish yesterday's upstairs rabbit pie before I came to my lesson. I think you have not been candid with me, Septimus. A gazebo was not, after all, a meat larder.
I never said that my definition was complete.
Is carnal embrace kissing?
Yes.
And throwing one's arms around Mrs. Chater?
Yes.
I thought as much. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
I, my lady?
If you do not teach me the true meaning of things, who will?
Yes, I'm ashamed. Fermat's last theorem, by contrast, asserts that when x, y, and z are whole numbers, each raised to the power of n, no two can exceed the third when n is at least 2.
Ugh!
Well, nevertheless, that is the theorem.
It is disgusting and incomprehensible. Now, when I'm grown to practice it myself, I shall never do so without thinking of you.
Well, thank you very much, my lady. Was Mr. Chater down this morning?
No. Tell me more about carnal embrace.
There is nothing more to be said about it.
Is it the same as love?
No, it is much nicer than that. I am teaching, Jellyby.
Excuse me, sir. Mr. Chater insisted you got this letter. He says it's urgent.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chater asked that I bring back his answer for you.
My answer? Well, tell him that my answer, as is custom to his lordship, is that I am occupied in the education of his daughter until 11:45. If he is still there, then I will be happy to meet him in the gun room.
Yes, sir, I will do so, sir.
Thank you. Well, so much for Mr. Noakes. He puts himself forward as a visionary of the picturesque who can move mountains and cause lakes, but in the scheme of the garden, he is a serpent.
When you stir your rice pudding, Septimus, the spoonful of jam spreads itself round, making red trails like the picture of Meteor in my astronomical atlas. But when you stir backwards, the jam will not come together again. Indeed, the pudding does not notice it continues to turn pink just as before. Do you think this is odd?
No.
Well, I do. You cannot stir things apart.
No, more you can. Time just needs to run backwards. And since it will not, we must continue mixing onward. And it's disorder onto disorder into disorder until pink is complete, and we are done with it forever. That's what's known as free will or self-determination.
Septimus, do you think God is a Newtonian?
A Newtonian? Almost certainly, I'm afraid. We must ask your brother to make it his first inquiry.
No, Septimus, a Newtonian. Septimus, am I the first to have thought of this?
No.
I have not said yet.
If everything, from the furthest planet to the smallest atom of our brain, acts according to Newton's laws, then what's to be said of free will?
No.
God's will?
No.
Sin?
No!
Very well.
If you could stop every atom in its direction and its position, and if your mind could comprehend all actions thus suspended, then, if you were really, really good at algebra, you could come up with the formula for all the future. And although nobody could ever be so clever as to do so, well, the formula must exist just as if one could.
Yes. Yes, as far as I know, you're the first to have thought of this. But in Fermat's copy of Arithmetica, he wrote that he had discovered a wonderful proof for his theorem, but the margin was too narrow for his purpose. The note was found after his death, and from that day to this...
Oh, I see. The answer is perfectly obvious.
I think now you might have overreached yourself. Ah! Mr. Chater! Perhaps my message miscarried. I will be at liberty at 11:45, if that is convenient.
It is not convenient, sir. My business will not wait.
Well, then perhaps you have Lord Kroom's opinion that your business is more important than the education of his daughter.
I do not, sir. But if you like, I will ask his lordship to settle the point.
My lady, take Fermat into the music room. There will be an extra spoonful of jam if you can find his proof.
There is no proof, Septimus. The thing that was perfectly obvious was the note in the margin was just a joke to make you all mad.
So, sir, what is this business that simply cannot wait?
I think you know it, sir. You insulted my wife.
Insulted her? Well, that would deny my nature, my conduct, and the admiration of which I hold Mrs. Chater.
I've heard of your admiration, sir. You insulted my wife yesterday evening in the gazebo.
You are mistaken. I made love to your wife in the gazebo. She asked me to meet her there. I can find her note somewhere. And if someone's putting it forward that I did not show, well then by God, sir, it is a slander.
Fletcher, you would drag down a lady's reputation to make refuge for your cowardice. It will not do, sir. I am calling you out.
Chater! 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 Dear friend!
You dare call me that? I demand satisfaction.
Mrs. Chater demanded satisfaction. And now you're demanding satisfaction? I cannot spend all my time day and night satisfying the needs of the children. I assure you, Mrs. Chater is charming and spirited.
Oh, do not listen to this. Will you fight or not?
Not. There are not 3 poets in the first rank living, and I will not shoot one of them dead over a perpendicular poke in a gazebo with a woman whose reputation could not be adequately defended by a platoon of musketry deployed by Rata.
You say so, do you? Who are the others? In your opinion? Oh, no, Hodges goes very ill. I will not be flattered off my course. You say so, do you?
Yes, and I would say the same to Milton were he not already dead. Not the part about his wife, of course, but...
But about the living, Mr. Southey?
Oh, Southey I would have shot on sight.
Yes, he's fallen off. I admired Thalba quite, but Maddock... Oh, dear me. But we are straying from the business here. You took advantage of Mrs. Chater, and if that were not bad enough, it appears every stable boy and scullery maid on the strength.
Well, damn me, have you not heard a word I've said?
I have heard you, sir, and I will not deny I welcome your regard. God knows one is a little appreciated if one stands outside the coterie of hacks and placemen who surround Geoffrey in the Edinburgh.
Oh, my dear Chater, they judge a poet by the seating plan of Lord Holland's table.
By heavens, you are right! And I would very much like to know the name of the scoundrel who slandered my verse drama, The Maid of Turkey, and the Piccadilly Recreation, too.
The Maid of Turkey! Oh, the Maid of Turkey. I have it by my bedside. When I cannot sleep, I take up The Maid of Turkey, like an old friend.
There you are. And the scoundrel wrote he would not give it to his dog for dinner were it covered in bread sauce and stuffed with chestnuts. When Mrs. Chater read that, sir, she wept. Which recalls me to my purpose.
This next poem, however, will make your name perpetual.
Whether it do or not.
Oh, it is no question of do or do not. The couch of Eros will take the town.
Is that your estimation?
Oh, it is my intent.
Ah, well, I do not understand you.
You see, I have an early copy sent to me for review. And I say review, but I speak of an extensive appreciation of your gifts and your rightful place in English literature.
Oh, certainly. Have you written it yet?
Not yet.
And how long does...
Well, to be done, and to be done right, first I must read your book, both your books, again, and then with a couple outlying works in the genre, and then I'll make notes, and finally, when I'm clear in my mind...
Did Mrs. Chater know this before you?
I think she very likely did.
There is nothing that woman would not do for me! Anything in her character? My God, she is a wife to me, sir!
Oh, and for that alone, I would not make her a widow.
Bryce once made the same observation.
Captain Bryce did?
Mr. Hodge, allow me to inscribe your copy with happy anticipation. Lady Thomasina's pen will serve us.
Your connection to her ladyship, you owe to fighting her brother?
Oh, no, it was nonsense, sir. A canard. But a fortunate mistake, as it brought me the patronage of a captain of His Majesty's Navy, and the brother of a countess. I do not think Mr. Walter Scott can say as much. And here I am, a respected guest at Sidley Park.
Well, sir, you may say that you have received satisfaction.
Oh.
Mr. Noakes! My muddling-meddled rascal! Where's your spyglass?
I beg your leave. I thought her ladyship. Excuse me. To my friend Septimus Hodge, who stood up and gave his best on behalf of the author, Ezra Chater, at Sidley Park, Derbyshire, April 10, 1809. There, sir. Something to show your grandchildren.
Oh, this is handsome, Chater. This is more than I deserve. What do you say, Mr. Noakes?
Oh, no! Not the gazebo. Mr. Noakes, what is this I hear?
Your ladyship.
Not only the gazebo, but the boathouse, the Chinese bridge, the shrubbery.
My God, sir, not possible!
Mr. Noakes will have it, sir.
Mr. Noakes, this is monstrous!
I'm glad to hear it from you, Mr. Hodge.
May I return now?
Not just yet?
Yes, let us stay. A lesson in folly is worth 2 in wisdom.
Is Sydney Park to be an Englishman's heart or a haunt of pirates?
Oh, well, let us not hyperbolize, sir.
It is a mockery, sir.
It is the modern style.
Regrettable, of course, but so it is.
Mr. Chater, you show too much submission. Mr. Hodge, I appeal to you.
Thank you, your ladyship. I regret the gazebo. I sincerely regret the gazebo, and even the boathouse, up to a point. But the Chinese bridge? Fantasy. And the shrubbery I reject with contempt. My lady, would you take the word of some jumped-up, jobbling gardener who sees carnal embrace in every nook and cranny of the landscape?
Septimus, they are not speaking of carnal embrace. Are you, Mamma?
Certainly not. What do you know of carnal embrace?
Everything thanks to Septimus. In my opinion, Mr. Noakes' scheme for the garden is perfect. It is a Salvator.
What does she mean?
Salvatore Rosa, your ladyship, the painter. He is the very exemplar of the picturesque style.
Hodge, what is she talking about?
She speaks from innocence, not from experience.
You call this innocence? Has he ruined you, child?
Answer your uncle!
How is everyone's child different from a ruined castle?
On such issues, I defer to Mr. Noakes.
A ruined castle is picturesque, certainly.
Yes, that is the primary difference. Sir, I teach the classical authors. If I do not elucidate their meaning, who will?
As her tutor, it is your job to keep the girl in innocence.
Do not dabble in paradox, Edward. It puts you in danger of fortuitous wit. Thomasina, wait in your bedroom.
Yes, Mamma. I did not intend to get you in trouble, Septimus. I'm very sorry for it. It's plain to see that there are some things the girl is allowed to understand. These include the whole of algebra, but there are others, such as embracing a side of beef, that must be kept from her until she is old enough to have a carcass of her own.
What is she talking about?
Thomasina, you had better remain. Your knowledge of the picturesque obviously exceeds anything the rest of us can offer. Mr. Hodge, ignorance should be like an empty vessel waiting to be filled at the well of truth, not a cabinet of vulgar curios. Mr. Noakes, now at last is your turn.
Thank you, your ladyship.
Your drawing is a very wonderful transformation. I would not have recognized my own garden but for your ingenious book. Is it not?
Yes, your ladyship.
My hyacinth dell has become a haunt for hobgoblins. My Chinese bridge, which I am assured is superior to the one at Kew, and for all I know, the one at Peking, is usurped by a fallen obelisk overgrown with briars.
Lord Little had one very similar.
I cannot relieve Lord Little's misfortunes by adding to my own. Pray, what is this rustic hovel that presumes to superpose itself on my gazebo?
It is the Hermitage, madam.
I am bewildered.
It is all irregular, Mr. Noakes.
It is, sir. Irregularity is one of the chiefest principles of the picturesque style.
But Sidley Park is already a picture, and a most amiable picture too. In short, it is nature as God intended, and I can say, with the painter, et in Arcadia ego. Here I am in Arcadia. Thomasina,
Yes, Mamma, if you would have it so.
is she correcting my taste or my translation?
It was neither, Mamma. It was your geography that caused the doubt.
Something has occurred with the girl since I saw her last. And surely that was yesterday. How old are you this morning?
13 years and 10 months, Mamma.
13 years and 10 months. She's not due to be pert for 6 months at the earliest, or to have notions of taste for much longer. Mr. Hodge, I hold you accountable. Mr. Noakes, back to you.
Thank you, Your Ladyship.
You've been reading too many novels by Mrs. Radcliffe. That is my opinion. This is a garden for the Castle of Otranto, or the Mysteries of Udolpho.
The Castle of Otranto, Your Ladyship, was written by Horace Walpole.
Mr. Walpole the gardener.
Mr. Chater, you are a welcome guest at Sidley Park. But whilst you are one, the Castle of Otranto was written by whomsoever I say it was. Otherwise, what is the point of having a guest, or being one? Ah, Mr. Hodge, your friend has got down a pigeon. Bravo, sir.
The pigeon, I am certain, fell to your husband or to your son. My school friend was never a sportsman.
Yes. To Augustus. Bravo, my lad.
Well, come along. Where are my troops?
My dear Mr. Hodge.
Mr. Chater.
I have grown up in the sound of guns like a child of a siege. Pigeons and rooks from the close season, grouse from the heights of August, and pheasants to follow, and the culling of the herd. Life is written in the game book.
Yes, a calendar of slaughter, even in Arcadia there am I.
Oh, phooey to death. I will draw in a hermit. What's a hermitage without a hermit? Are you in love with my mother, Septimus?
You must not be cleverer than your elders. It is not polite.
Am I cleverer?
Yes. Much.
I'm very sorry for it. Mrs. Chater came to the music room with a note for you. She said it was of scant importance, and that therefore I should carry it with the most urgency, safety, and discretion. Does carnal embrace addle the brain?
Invariably. That is enough education for today.
There. I've made him like a Baptist in the wilderness.
How picturesque.
Thomasina!